Hey guys, this is a short video just to tie up some loose ends about different ways that projectiles behave in the world, some ways that we haven't looked at too much. So to start off with this bit, I want to quickly review the basic concepts that we've had for projectile motion, which is that the vertical motion is independent of the horizontal motion. In other words, if we launch a cannonball horizontally, it will hit the ground at the same time as a ball that just falls right out of the barrel and drops straight down. You're very familiar with this idea. I've said it so many times. I know you know what I'm talking about. However, we have a major assumption that we make when we use this technique, and that assumption is that the ground is flat. So that the ball has the same distance to fall, whether it falls straight or whether it heads downrange some distance. And that's all very nice for rolling marbles off tables and throwing footballs down football fields and that sort of thing, because we can assume that the ground is flat over such a short distance. But as you know, we don't live on a flat Earth. We live on a curved Earth. So in reality, when we kick a ball or shoot a cannonball or something off of a cliff, it actually has to go around the curvature of the Earth very, very slightly before it hits the ground. And that means that for objects on the Earth that are moving far enough for this to become relevant, an object which is fired horizontally actually has a longer distance to fall than one that drops straight. Okay, so let's take this kind of to the extreme here. This is a diagram out of Isaac Newton's famous book. This is called Newton's Mountain. And it was a thought experiment. And he imagined being on the tallest mountain in the world and shooting a cannonball or throwing a rock or something like that. And as you can see, it falls some distance, like the point D here, and crashes into the Earth. No surprise there. But if he gives it a little more horizontal speed, if he throws it faster, it's going to go to E or maybe to F. The faster he throws it, the farther it's going to go around the curvature of the Earth, and that means the longer distance it has to fall before the Earth stops it. If we go even faster than this, we'll go all the way around to G, which basically is the opposite side of the Earth. And the trend here is, theoretically, there should be some speed which is fast enough where even though the ball is falling and it's curving downward, it keeps on missing the Earth, because the curvature of the Earth causes the ground to fall away as fast as the ball falls to the Earth. And when you reach that speed, then rather than hitting the ground here at point G, it's just going to keep on going around and around and around. It's going to come right back to where you started, the mountain on top of or the peak of the mountain where you started. Okay. Now, this would not work, say, in our classroom if I fired a high-powered rifle out the window. Never mind the other problems with doing that, but just work with me on this. Even if I did fire a projectile straight out the window, it would run into trees or hills or something before it made it all the way around the world. And even if we did this on the top of Mount Everest, what is actually the highest mountain in the world, where there are no trees, there are no hills in the way, because Mount Everest is the highest thing. Even then, it would not work because there's air resistance, and air resistance would slow down the bullet and it would drag it into, slow it down so that it hit the Earth. Okay. However, if we go up high above the atmosphere to where there's no air, like we go up 100 miles or 150 miles, 200 miles, where there's no air resistance, well, now it'll work just fine. And if we give it enough sideways velocity, as I previously explained, it will still be falling down, just like any other projectile that we kick off of a cliff. It will still be curving downward toward the Earth. But if we give it a high enough speed, then the surface of the Earth will drop away below the projectile enough so the projectile, even though it is always falling, keeps missing. And then it goes around and around and around. And hopefully this is a surprise to you. This is because there's a hint right there. This is the concept of satellites. So all of our artificial communication satellites that we launch, the space station, those are all satellites. This is what they're doing. We put them on a rocket and we give them enough horizontal speed up above the atmosphere that when we turn off the engine and they start to fall back toward the Earth, they're going fast enough that they keep on missing. This is also what the moon does. The moon is way up there, but it's affected by Earth's gravity. It's just that the moon is moving fast enough sideways that even though it is falling toward the Earth, it is missing the Earth, and it goes around and around and around for a long, long time. Um, Now, how fast does something have to be going to be able to achieve this? Let's see, I think I have one right here. This is a little messy, but um, the magic number here is 8 kilometers per second, or 8,000 meters per second. And that is a number that I would like you to remember. The idea here is that if you go horizontally 8 kilometers across the surface of the Earth, or 8,000 meters, that's the same thing, that over that distance, the curvature of the Earth will make the Earth drop away by 5 meters. And as you know, if you drop a ball in 1 second, it will fall 5 meters. We've done that calculation many times. So that means that if you go out to the beach and you were to fire a high-powered rifle out over the ocean at 8,000 meters per second, well, in 1 second, it will travel 8 kilometers, and it will fall 5 meters, because that's what everything does when we throw it. But in that 8 kilometers, the surface of the Earth has also dropped away by 5 meters, so that the bullet or the ball, whatever we've thrown, will still be the same distance above the surface of the Earth that it was when we threw it. Now, as I said, right at the surface of the Earth, if you went out to the beach to do this, air resistance would slow the projectile down, so this wouldn't work. But if you get up above the atmosphere, it works just fine. And the magic number is 8,000 meters per second, or 8 kilometers per second. That's what satellites are. These red arrows make the point that gravity is always pulling objects directly toward the center of the Earth, no matter where you are around the Earth. So that means that as the projectile curves downward, well, gravity is still perpendicular to its path. So it kind of resets itself, just like when it left this point at the top of the mountain and gravity was pulling it straight down. Well, when it gets out 8 kilometers, it drops 5 meters, gravity is still pulling it toward the center. So it works. Anyway, so that's the bottom line here, is that satellites are projectiles. They behave just like all other projectiles. It's just that they move so fast sideways that they keep on missing the Earth, even though they are falling. Okay, that's the bit. Thank you for your time. You have the review packet to work on, and we will see you next time.